Merhabalar herkese. Hepiniz IEFT Talks webinarlarına hoş geldiniz. Bugün İngiltere'nin en iyi üniversitelerinden Bournemouth Üniversite Doktora programlarını James ve Jamie'den dinliyor olacağız. Lütfen sorularınızı soru cevap bölümünden yönlendirmeyi unutmayın. Yes, James, the stage is yours now.
Thank you, Zeynep. Hello, everybody from Bournemouth in the UK. I'd like to just thank you all for attending, and we're going to give you a short presentation on Bournemouth University, and more specifically on opportunities for research study here at Bournemouth. I'm joined by my colleague Jamie, who is from our doctoral college and deals with research applications every day. He's far more of an expert than me in this field. I am part of the international team at the university, so deal with international students, both in the application process and supporting you once students arrive here in Bournemouth. So I'm just going to share a presentation with you. As I say, it won't be a super long presentation, and afterwards then hopefully we'll have plenty of time for your questions. All right, so just bear with me, I'll get this started. Okay, someone give me a nod. Can you see the presentation? Thanks, Jamie. All right, cool. So postgraduate research opportunities at Bournemouth University. First of all, I just thought it would be useful to tell you where Bournemouth is and a little bit about the location of the university. So Bournemouth is right on the south coast of England, right in the middle. It's a large town with a population of just under 200,000. Really, Bournemouth is primarily a tourist resort. Our main industry here is tourism, and that's due to our, which I think you can see a small picture at the bottom there, 7 miles or 12 kilometers of great beaches. The weather is warm for the UK. So believe it or not, in the summer, yes, you can actually come and sunbathe and swim in the sea. It's a very cosmopolitan town, lots and lots of international students at 2 universities. So there's ourselves and there's an arts university also in Bournemouth. Plus it's home to a very large group of English language schools. So, the city or the town is always full of international people, international students, and as such that there's plenty to keep you entertained and while you're here in Bournemouth. Everything you'd expect from a vibrant tourist resort, lots of restaurants, parks, water sports activities, anything you want to do really, you can find here in Bournemouth. We're only 2 hours from London by train or coach, only an hour and a half from Heathrow Airport, so transport links, are very convenient. And I think Bournemouth is an ideal location for international students in that it's not a vast kind of metropolis like London, but like I said before, everything is here. So if you're in Bournemouth, wherever you're staying or whatever you're doing, you're never really more than 20 minutes from the university, and getting around the town and getting to know the place is very, very easy. So the university itself, Bournemouth University, is a new university by British standards. So it was established in 1992, and we have a focus on professionally oriented programs. So in other words, those that are vocational and tend to focus on the industry and career prospects. That said, we are very active in our research, and we're going to talk to you about research today. So in terms of the infrastructure of the university, there's been huge investment in the last 4 to 5 years. So, we've invested around £250 million in our facilities. So buildings, learning spaces, libraries, IT, technology. So it's a really modern and really well equipped university. Some of our achievements: our business school is accredited by AACSB, In terms of rankings, we perform well in international university rankings. So we're one of the top 70 young universities in the world and one of the top 300 overall universities in the world. Our research is very well recognized. So as it says here, 94% of our research was rated as internationally recognized or higher, and 19% of our research is ranked as world leading in the last research excellence framework. The university itself is split between two campuses, but again, they're only 5-10 minutes apart by bus. Depending on what subject area you're studying or researching, you may be based at one or the other campus. So one is right in the center of the city, and the other is slightly out of town. The university's grown substantially in the last few years. We currently have around 19,000 students. Of those students, you're looking at around, well, nearly 3,000 of those are from outside of the UK, from really every country you could mention. And in terms of our Turkish student population, we currently have around 100 Turkish students starting every year. So very good and large Turkish student community. The university is home to 4 separate academic faculties. So the business school, which I mentioned before, and within the business school, you can study or research accounting, finance, economics, business and marketing, as well as tourism and hospitality, and leisure and sports management. Our faculty of media and communications, which is home to, amongst others, the NCCA, which is the National Centre for Computer Animation. So Bournemouth is one of the world leading institutions for the teaching and research into computer animation and visual effects. As well as that, within the faculty, you can study media and communications, and by that, I mean journalism, advertising, marketing, public relations, as well as media production, filmmaking, essentially, and law. So our law school is housed in our faculty of media and communications. And in law, some of our specialities, especially at research level, would be intellectual property, as well as public, international, human rights law. Our faculty of science and technology houses departments that teach and are actively researching anthropology, archaeology, forensic science, as well as medical sciences, cybersecurity, computing, AI and big data, design and engineering, and psychology. So lots there. And then finally, we have a faculty of health and social sciences, where we are interested in research into midwifery, paramedic science, physiotherapy, occupational therapy, sports science, as well as sociology and criminology. So really all allied medical subjects other than an actual doctor of medicine, you can cover within that faculty. So that's just a very brief snapshot of the university and the subject areas we have to offer. Now, to give you some more specific advice on research opportunities and the process for applying for a research degree, I'm going to hand over to Jamie to tell you about that. And then, as I said, at the end, we'll be happy to take any questions you've got. So over to you, Jamie.
Cool. Thank you, James. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. I'm broadcasting live from my telephone device, so hopefully that works all right. So as James said, my name is Jamie. I work in the Doctoral College at Bournemouth University as one of the admissions administrators for our research degree programs. And the Doctoral College sort of runs and is a central place for all of our research degrees, and we work alongside the faculties. So firstly, what I wanted to go over was just a reminder of what a research degree actually is and what it looks like compared to a taught master's degree. Our research degrees are individual research projects, so it's something that you'll be sort of directed by yourself and you'll decide what you're studying. We like to think of people doing research degrees as being the only single person doing that course in the world, because that's the sort of original impact you should be looking for when you do a research degree. The sort of things you'll be doing in your research degree is carrying out literature reviews, researching and coming up with a methodology for your research, data collection and analysis, and then writing up a final thesis. For our research degrees, there's no taught seminars or lectures. It's very much up to you how you work your study across your time at BU on the research degree. You will be working with a supervisory team of at least 2 academic staff and meeting them sort of on a monthly basis or every 2 months, depending on how much you might need to speak to them. And as I said, your aim for a research degree really is to be making an original contribution to your chosen field, depending on what level of research degree you actually undertake with us. So speaking of the different research degrees we do, we offer 3 main research degrees at Bournemouth University. 2 of them are master's level degrees, and one of them is the Doctor of Philosophy, which is a level 8 qualification in the UK. And the main differences here are the sort of scope and the size of the research project you'd be undertaking. So the PhD is obviously the larger one, takes 3 to 4 years to complete at a full-time rate. And your final thesis will be about 40 to 80,000 words long, depending on exactly what you're studying. Sometimes if you're in a more statistical field, you might be using a lot of graphs and a lot of words. If you're doing something more in media communication or business, you're probably writing a much longer thesis towards the 80,000. The MPhil, the Master of Philosophy degree, is more like 2 to 3 years to complete, and again, a slightly smaller thesis. And the MRes is much smaller degree. It's still quite popular. It's more similar to a normal taught master's degree in terms of length. You're talking about 12 months to submission, about 18 months to complete, and a much smaller thesis of 15 to 30,000 words. All of them will have quite similar learning outcomes. You'll want to be making that original contribution to research. It's just that the scope and the size of the project is much larger, that the sort of higher up you go down the chain there. Thank you, James. So just to touch on our entry criteria for our research degrees, it's the same for any of the 3 that I just mentioned. So we'd be looking for a bachelor degree equivalent to a 2-1, which I believe is about 2.7 out of 4 in the Turkish bachelor degree, or a relevant master's degree. Again, we don't ask for anything too high for our research programs. Just having a relevant degree, being able to demonstrate that you've got maybe some research skills in your previous degrees, and coming with just a good original idea that you want to work on is really what we're mainly looking for. With regards to English language, if you studied in the UK before, then you'd meet our language criteria straight away. You don't need to do anything else for that. If you haven't, usually the route people take to meet our English language criterion is an IELTS academic test with a 6.5 overall and a 5.5 per component, or similar equivalent courses, which I've listed there, such as TOEFL, KITE, or a pre-sessional program that we offer in partnership with the International College, also located in the centre of Bournemouth. So the fees and funding for research degrees, always a popular topic. I know when we talk about PhD programs and the like, it's probably the inquiry that we get most asked in the doctoral college. So these are the fees for the 23-24 academic year entry. We do have 3 intakes, so you can join us in September, January, or April. So, and they're the same for every year. Currently, the fees for overseas students are £17,000 to £19,000. There are 2 different fees there. The higher one would be charged if you're doing a research project that requires use of specialist equipment or lab space. This is usually decided after your interview, and the supervisors would decide that depending on what you've discussed in the interview and the scope of your research proposal. So if you're using any sort of high-end stuff, if you're doing computer animation or nanomaterials or something like that, you'd probably be charged the higher of the 2 fees, whether something like business or media communication would just be the library route and the cheaper fee. As for how to fund your PhD, these are the main sort of options that people take when it comes to funding a research degree. Self-funding is obviously one if you've managed to get your own money together, or you can have some supplementary income alongside your research degree. You can self-fund your fees. You may be looking for an employer to fund your degree. Some people work in organizations or companies that are actively researching themselves and might, if you're already working there, might happily pay for your fees and maybe living costs for you to go and do a PhD, do some research, and then bring back that knowledge to your company. Sponsorship as well, potentially the Turkish government or organizations may have sponsor routes for PhD level study. And finally, BU does offer some studentships. If we go to the next page, James, I can talk a little bit more about PhD studentships. So studentships are a very popular way of funding your PhD study in the UK. For BU, this would be a predefined project. So these are usually projects created by our own academics that you might see advertised and then apply for if it kind of matches your specialization or your field of interest. Usually you'd be working with an external partner who would help to fund the PhD. This could be a business or an organization, charity, and we work quite closely with the NHS as well and our local hospitals and a lot of our studentships. The main things about studentship, which is why they're so popular, is that it comes with a 3-year fee waiver. So there's no fees for 3 years. which, as we've just seen the fees, makes it an awful lot cheaper to come and study a PhD degree here at BU. You also get paid as well for doing your PhD. So it comes with 3 years of a stipend, which is currently just under £18,000 per year. And the stipend does increase slightly every year based on the government's own minimum stipend levels. So at BU, we usually advertise these studentship opportunities, usually mostly along the spring and summer. So anyone from about March through to June, July, you would see these on the BU website. If these PowerPoint slides are being sent out, I've included a link at the bottom of this one, which will take you directly to where they're advertised. They are competitive, so they're quite similar to applying for a job. The advert is open for a set number of weeks, and then we close it, and then the academics will shortlist people to interview, and then the successful person will be made an offer. The entry criteria for our studentships is slightly higher because there's a bit of funding involved. So we usually look for something similar to a first-class bachelor's degree or distinction at master's, just because we like to try and make sure the best candidates get our studentships and the money. Bear with me 1 second, I'll just take a sip of water. As well as the BU website, we do advertise our studentships on external platforms. The 2 most common to find PhD studentships are findaphd.com and jobs.ac.uk. Thank you. So I want to talk a bit wider now about the support we have for postgraduate researchers at BU. Obviously, I mentioned before we'd be working with academic supervisors. This can be 2 to 4 academics. They could also come from external companies to help you with your research degree, provide advice, not just on how you should be carrying out your research, what areas to research, but also pastoral care as well. They're going to be your first sort of line of support for any questions you might have. We also have a research development program. So I mentioned that there weren't any seminars or lectures as part of a research degree. However, the doctoral college offers a huge variety of workshops and masterclasses for you to help your personal and professional development while you're on your research degree. These could be things like how do I do data analysis? How do I use certain methodologies? How do I present my research? How do I apply to conferences? How do I apply to funding? Huge variety. These are both online and in person. We also have another extensive catalogue of online training and resources as well that'll be available to you. So you could be attending 3 to 4 of these workshops a week throughout your whole study here. The only mandatory ones are usually ethics and things like that, which you have to carry out as part of your research degree program. But everything else you can sort of pick as you go along what you might need to do at certain points. We also offer specific training workshops for things like the major review, which is a key part of the PhD journey, which comes up about the 2 years mark. And also the probation review as well, which is about 3 months into your course, which is checks to make sure you're going on the right track with your degree. So finally, I just want to touch on how to apply, and then we'll be happy to take any further questions. So all our applications are made through an online form. You can quite easily find the links again. I've included one there to find all our specific courses. You can just click the green apply now button and fill in your personal details. You want to upload any of your documents that we use to support your application, such as previous qualifications, English language, funding, proof, references. You'll have space to upload or write a personal statement and your research proposal. On our websites, we've got some really good guidance about how to write both of those documents. You can find that, and I'm sure we could send that out to you if needed. And then there's also 2 academic references we ask for as well as part of the application process, and there's space to put on those as well. So I think that might be it, James.
You're absolutely right. That is it. So yeah, guys, I can see there's some questions have been put in the Q&A section. So I'll just, now I've stopped sharing, I'll just have a look at those. Okay. Oh yeah, and I meant to say this. So Melissa's asked a question that I asked you just before we started. I did mean to put this in the presentation. So how big is the research community at BU?
So we have about around 500 to 520 postgraduate researchers at the moment. I'm probably going to roughly say off the top of my head sort of breakdown. So I'd say at least a third of them are probably international students, and about maybe 20% of them are BU staff members completing their research degree as well. Because obviously a key part of BU strategy is making sure their academic staff have doctorates as well. So we do encourage our staff members to get them as well. So yeah, about 500, 520 at the moment out of the 19,000 students you said at the start, James?
Yeah, and is there is there any imbalance in kind of which faculties they're based in, or are they fairly evenly split over the faculties are all as active?
I'd say it's fairly evenly split. Actually, mostly breaks down to our studentships. So most of our studentships that we advertise are probably across the faculties of science and technology and health and social sciences, whether we probably receive a lot more standard applications for business and media.
Okay, got you. Excellent. Thanks for the question, Melissa. Okay, now the excellently named anonymous attendee has asked, can I do a PhD degree even if I don't have an academic background in that specific area?
I would say absolutely. I think, non-traditional routes through to academic and research study are absolutely acceptable. And as we touched on earlier, we're kind of all about, sort of like job experience and the practical sort of elements. So I think we've had people do PhDs without either bachelor or master's degree, and just professional experience is something we do encourage. So yeah, it's definitely not a reason to not apply. If you want more information or discuss that further, you can probably email us in advance or find potential supervisors, which is something we also encourage, and explain maybe your non-academic background, or the fact that you don't have experience academically in that area. However, to caveat that, you would still need to be able to produce a research proposal to apply that is academically sound. So it does need a good academic background and need to be referenced properly. But you definitely don't need to necessarily have the prior qualifications in order to do a PhD, but you need to demonstrate that you can work to that level as part of the application.
Okay, and likewise, if you do have the right academic qualifications, but they were in, technology, and now you want to do due to career, your work, you've gone in a different direction, then absolutely we would still welcome applications, even if your first and master's degree were in a completely separate academic area. So yeah,
sure. And it might be that's where our Masters by Research MS course also comes into its own as well. If you're quite new to a subject area, maybe a PhD is quite a large commitment to do that, whether an MRes is just 12 to 18 months. It might offer you a bit more of an introduction to research in a field before you then build on that with a PhD later on.
And could you continue from your MRes to PhD level? Would you still need to complete the full 3-year PhD, or would your MRes count towards it?
So we do have an offer, yes. So there is a process where you can transfer up from an MRes at about the 10-month mark to a PhD. It's not the usual route, and it's probably not one we'd advise, and also can be a bit fiddly with visas sometimes. For instance, you might need to leave the UK, apply for another visa, come back, depending on individual circumstances. It is something we'd offer, but often when you get to 10 months into an MRes, you're very close to finishing that degree, and it might be more ideal to complete the MRes first and then apply again for a future PhD.
Okay, understood. Thank you. So Tana has asked whether we offer special scholarships for prospective PhD students. Now, I think really the studentships are the most significant offer that we have in terms of a reduced fee. Are there any other scholarships which can reduce the fee a bit, or is it the studentships or nothing really?
So if you've studied at BU before, then there's an alumni discount of 20% off the tuition fee. There's no other wider scholarships at PhD level or MPhil. For that Masters by Research, if you do it on a full-time basis in September or January start, there is the opportunity of a small fee discount. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's usually around £2,000 maybe. That's if you've got the equivalent of a 2-1 or better bachelor's degree.
It's 3,500 now.
Actually. There we go. I knew.
You're right. I mean, so we do have quite an extensive range of scholarships for full-time master's study, and because the MRes counts as, if you do it full-time as a master's course, then there's more opportunity. So, but at PhD level, it's kind of a, I don't want to say all or nothing, but kind of you either got the really big ticket studentship where you pay no fee and you get paid to do the program, or it's the full tuition fee. Usually, we don't offer any direct other scholarships for PhD level at the moment. Okay, thank you. Now, do we have any specific partner companies for internship opportunities? I think that would probably not be something that would happen as standard at PhD level, right?
Yeah, not often. We probably wouldn't use word internship. Often with some of our studentships that are underdone with external companies, some of them would have you maybe based in the company for some part of the time, but we don't often have formal internships at PhD level. That's not something that BU currently has a sort of process on, but it can happen. And if your research is potentially you work somewhere and you want to do your PhD about that employer or that sector, you might be able to find and organize your own sort of internships as part of it. But we don't have a formal internship process for our PhD programs at the moment.
No, and again, that's different at master's and bachelor degree level, where internships are a huge part of what we offer. And yes, we do have specific partner companies, but yeah, as this is a PhD or a research webinar, no, I think it's pretty much a full-time job, and then some anyway, doing a PhD. Sure. So okay, so this is a great question, Jamie, and it's been addressed to you, so you'll have to take this. If you were a student, why would you study your degree in Bournemouth University?
I mean, apart from what James said about the beach being quite nearby, I would say, usually we would say for PhD level, probably one of the most important things about postgraduate research, I think particularly PhD, because that 3 to 4 year commitment, is finding the right supervisors. Now, hopefully they'll be at BU and you'll be coming to BU to research in one of our specialist fields that James mentioned earlier on in our departments. That is probably the key to a successful PhD journey. So I wouldn't sell you to just come to BU to do a PhD just because, but we do have a lot of world-leading experts in a wide range of subjects. And if those align with your own research interests, I would say that BU is a great place to come because we do have those experts here with us. I don't know if that fully addresses your question, but it is a slightly different PhD level where recruitment can be tricky in this because we want you to have a good experience. So we always say that one of the key things you can do, even ahead of applying, is using the Bournemouth University website. There's staff profile pages for all the faculties and departments, and you can see each of our academic staff special areas of interest, other PhD supervisors, PhD students they're supervising. And if they sort of fit your own profile and interests, get in touch with them, fling them an email and try and build up a relationship first, because that is one of the key components of doing a 3 or 4 year degree, especially a PhD degree, which can be a tough one to do, but incredibly rewarding.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, as you say, the PhD, the relationship with your supervisors is absolutely key. And I mean, a lot of students undertaking a PhD, if their supervisor moves university during the time they're studying, quite often they'll move with them to the new institution. And we're not here just to say you have to come to Bournemouth Uni. I think if and hopefully we do have the right expertise, it's about finding that right academic that suits what it is you want to research in such depth for 3 or 4 years. So it's the personal knowledge or an expertise of the academic that matters almost as much, or if not more, than the university itself. So as Jamie said, I think go to the staff profile pages of any university you're considering for PhD, and on ours you can just put in a term that's related to your research proposal, big data, whatever, and then it will bring up all the publications, all the references that our academics have in that area. And then, as Jamie said, they're more than happy to take an email from you, just a speculative inquiry. Hey, I'm from Turkey, I really want to research into this area. And they'll tell you either, well, we don't necessarily have capacity at the moment, or I'd love to look at it further, or may even suggest to you colleagues from this and other universities that you should contact. So that is really important, really important part of the process, as Jamie said. Okay, so we've got a couple more questions. I can take one, which is good, right? Do you offer sessional English if we do not reach the language requirement? And the answer is yes on that. So I think, as Jamie referenced in his presentation, we have an international college that is attached to the university. And within that international college, we do run pre-sessional English programs that are designed to bring you up to the required level. So if, for example, at PhD level, you need a 6.5 in IELTS or equivalent, and at the moment you're at 5.5 or 6, then you can come and join us, take a pre-sessional course, and as long as you pass that successfully, you could then progress onto your, your chosen program here at the university. So yeah, we do. That's the short answer. Does the PhD program offer any financial support? I think we've covered that really. It's the studentships, that are available.
One thing I can add to the financial support is that at PhD level, and only at PhD level, at the moment PhD students get access to £3,000 doctoral study fund, and so this should be directed towards. So this isn't for living costs or fees. This is to help your training and development, potentially any research costs that you might need, but may need to go to conferences and present at conferences, those sort of things, any other external training you might need, that can be used for as well. So there is a little bit to help you specifically for those sort of items, which can assist you throughout your degree.
Okay, that's interesting. I should have mentioned before when we were talking about scholarships, actually, that there are external scholarships that you could look into, as well as kind of domestic funding from Turkish government and similar. So there's schemes like the Chevening scheme. So it's a British government funded scholarship program that does also include PhD fellowships, and they are super competitive, again, like the studentships, but maybe worth you taking a look at the Chevening website. So that call goes out every year. Decisions are made. It's closed for this year, so for September 23 entry, but in around a month or two, it will open again for September 2024. So it may well be worth you looking out for those externally funded opportunities as well, and those, like the studentship, would give you both no fee to pay and and essentially some money to support you while you're studying, so a stipend while you're studying as well. Okay, last question that we've got for now, Jamie, is does the program encourage and support PhD students to work as teaching assistants?
I say yes on the whole. So we don't guarantee teaching opportunities, just because it depends on where those might arise and the other capacities around the academics and the teaching staff. But yes, there is. There is a postgraduate certificate in education I think you can do with regards to teaching while you're here. Again, that's subject to capacity, which is why we don't guarantee it, as part of the application process. But it definitely is encouraged. I think as long as you're working and earning alongside the visa conditions of the student visa here, that's perfectly fine. And again, it just depends on what arises while you're here with your study, what opportunities there are. But I'm sure it's something that can be arranged, or you can hope to be arranged at some point during your journey here.
Yeah, I think I've known in the past, multiple international students who've undertaken PhDs here at Bournemouth and then have done some teaching here alongside, and a couple of them actually have been retained and gone on to full-time lecturers at BU. So I'm not selling that that dream, but absolutely they do some teaching alongside some of them. Yeah, for sure. All right, so there's no more questions in the chat for now, but I'll give anyone a few minutes to put any further questions in. I was just thinking, can I think of any questions for you that might be useful for everybody? But probably not.
So, I can talk a bit more about the research culture when if you do a postgraduate research degree here. So, we have an annual PGR conference, which is totally run by PhD masters by research students, where they present their own work to each other and online as well to the wider world. And each faculty runs an annual conference in each of the 4 faculties, as well as they also run seminar series and things as well like that. So while you're undertaking a research degree, there's countless opportunities to sort of present your work to the people, learn those skills, also get your work and engagement out ahead of you, as well as publish alongside your journey as well, or work with academics on publications. So that's quite an important part of that. And a lot of that you can also do research development workshops on to get the training for those sort of things. So as well as, and that's all part of your PhD as well. That might not be on top of your 36 hours a week. That's kind of incorporated into your journey as well, because they're all major things, especially if you want a career in academia afterwards or research. There'll be major things that you'll want to learn and build on as well.
That's really useful. I was just thinking, it occurred to me that, as you say, quite often and quite understandably, that the main concern for people is affordability and fees. So I hope I'm right in saying that the structure of fees for PhD is the same as for master's level study. So we're not expecting necessarily all of that yearly fee to be paid up front. The way it's certainly structured, and correct me if I'm wrong, but for other programs at the universities, you would pay a small deposit before you start your program, and that's in order really for us to release your documents for your visa application. So you'd pay your first £3,000 as a deposit, and then the remaining fee would be spread out over the academic year in 2 or 3 installments usually. So it's not, so it's not, although it is expensive, we're not expecting all of that necessarily to be paid up front.
Sure. And for PhD level, you pay that fee for 3 years, and then the fourth year you'll charge a £600 fee only, called the writing up fee, because usually in the 4th year you'll be finishing up your viva, your thesis, or having your viva, which is the end of PGR sort of examination, and then doing any further corrections before you finish your degree. So if you don't go beyond your 4th year, that's it. That's the only fee you pay for the 4th year, and ideally you'll be done by then. If you exceed the 4th year, you go back onto that full fee. But there is just that normal. Usually it's just that fee for the first 3 years, and then £600 for year 4.
A question that occurs to me, Jamie, in terms of international students doing a PhD, is there any precedent, or are there any examples of PhD students at Bournemouth University undertaking their research from their home country?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, one of probably the key areas of interest you might have is probably something to do with in your own country. There are students, that absolutely go and research things in their own country. And again, if you're coming here on a student route visa, as long as you're meeting the terms of that visa, that's absolutely fine. The main thing in that regard is just engagement, so which is usually recording your supervisory meetings and what happens, and ensuring you're engaging with the PhD. Then it's usually no problem. But absolutely, and not even the home country, all over the world. PGR students are probably having to travel to do some hands-on research or things like that in the field, particularly in fields like archaeology, for instance, I guess, and that sort of thing. They would definitely and health and social sciences. We do a lot of work in Nepal, I think, in midwifery. So there's a lot of visits go on. And again, you can draw on your doctoral study fund at PhD level for those sort of trips if they're specific to your degree.
Great, thank you. Now, no further questions have popped up in the Q&A section, so I think we're probably safe to call it a day there. So thanks very much to Jamie.
Thank you, James.
Thank you to everyone who's attended and asked questions. So thanks very much. I hope that was useful for you.
Yes, thank you very much for the great presentation, James and Jamie. It was very informative for the attendance. And you covered.
Oh, we lost you there, Zainab. Sorry.
Could you please share an email address on the chat box so that if they have further questions, they can contact you?
Yeah, I'll share 2, because then there'll be one that is, I guess, specific for postgraduate or research admissions questions, and then one that is a general email address for general inquiries to Bournemouth University. Okay.
Yes, thank you.
So
Also,
either of these would work.
Also, I would like to thank the participants in Turkish as well. Katıldığınız için teşekkür ederiz arkadaşlar. Umarım sizin için de faydalı bir webinar olmuştur. Bournemouth Üniversite ile ilgili diğer sorularınız için chat kısmında paylaşılmış olan mail adresinden James'e ulaşabilirsiniz. Bir sonraki webinarlarımızda görüşmek üzere. Thank you very much again, you guys. It was a pleasure to have you in IEFT Talks.
Thank you. Goodbye, everyone.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.